So my name's Sue Battle. I'm a pediatrician, and my main job is working at the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children, and I'm the medical advisor there, and I do child sexual abuse exams there as well. My other hat is doing a program called Camp Careful, and that is a program that's been going on now for about 10, 11 years, teaching children and parents and mentors how to protect children from risks of child sexual abuse, assault. When I teach children of younger age groups, elementary school, I'm teaching them about keeping their private parts private, and then as we get into middle school and high school age classes, we discuss things like safe relationships, social media safety, consent, and things like that. So,
I'm Chelsea Ressiter, and I am working at a high school, and I'm a mother of 3 daughters, but I started working at a high school, about 5 years ago, and I noticed that kids are different than how I went to high school and how the screens are affecting them and media. So I'm just a passionate mom and speaker about how digital media is affecting our kids, affecting adults, and I speak to all different groups, ages, of how we monitor media and the trends in media and how it's impacting our culture. So I'm excited to start.
yeah. This is kind of awkward. I haven't.
Yeah, I'm going to stand up because it's a little bit high. And we'll take questions at the end. But it's in the news daily, right? How many of you are teachers? How many are mentors? Most of you mentors, right? Do you see the effect that kids, media has on kids and phones? Are you noticing the differences? So we'll go through that.
Can I first ask, can you raise your hands and tell me if you're mentors of elementary school age students? Okay, what about middle school? High school? Okay, so we do have a full range.
Okay, great. So it's in the news daily. I started talking about 5 years ago. The first talk I did, I had 12 people come, and they were all my friends. And it was very hard to find the research, and I was digging all over to figure out what's going on with screens and how it's affecting our brains and our moods and our behaviors. Now, I can't keep up with it. It's in the news every day of what's going on and how the screens and how media is affecting our teenagers. I love that video because that's what you're doing mentoring, is building relationships and how we build relationships. And it's being present, and the power of being present is harder than ever with all these devices and how it's affecting us. But I want to open with this. It struggles. This is not, I talked to some 5th graders at Bells Hill on Thursday. This is not a 5th grade issue. This is not a teenage issue. This is a society issue. It affects all of us. But before we open into that, I don't want there to be shame or judgment or, a lot of kids especially feel like, well, my kid has, this kid has limited to this, or I have a phone, or I get this app, or I don't have that app. But we need to take away the shame, the judgment around this discussion and just really be open and talk about it, how it's affecting us, how it's affecting our thoughts and our behaviors, and how it's affecting relationships. So the news claims that screens are changing childhood, addictive, academic distraction, interfere with sleep, interfere with relationships, increase anxiety and depression, put your child at risk for cyberbullying, expose them to sexual content, and then the blue lights is really affecting the sleep patterns. True or false? You think the news is right or wrong? Right. Wrong? True. Yeah. There's a lot. We could speak for weeks on all of that. But here's where I want to stand before we get into the risk, is I'm so hopeful 5 years into this. I talk all the time, and I feel like we're at a place where the news is covering it. If you go to the pediatrician today, the nurse asks, what's your screen habits in your house? Do they have access to a device? How are you interacting? And I have older kids, and they'll ask, what apps do you like? So it's starting where the conversation is there. People are talking about it. So I am so hopeful that we're going to get a grip on this more than we have. And I also see older teenagers sometimes say, I'm just sick of it. I don't want to always be on. I don't want to always, so kids are also realizing the pressure that it adds as well. So these are just a fun little exercise. So if you ask a group of 18 to 25-year-olds, so we're all going to pretend we're 18 to 25, if I could have your phone and throw it at the ground and break it, or break your finger, okay? So you have one or two options. I'm going to do one or the other. And here's a statistic. 54% say break your phone. 46% say break your phone. The ones that break your finger say, well, I still have my other hand. My copay is cheaper than getting a new phone. You know, they thought it out. It's very, very fascinating of how attached they are to that phone. How long does it take a person to refocus after a text or a notification? So you're working, you're at work, you're working on paperwork, and you get a text. What is this? Are national statistics. 23 minutes. What's that doing to our workforce? What's that doing to them doing their homework? So they're focused, and then all of a sudden they get a text or a notification that may not mean anything. It may just be a news, report or something. But the refocus, the ability to focus and really focus and be present is affecting.
And I will tell you, we're going to talk about Snapchat in a little bit, but Snapchat, children who have Snapchat, which is the large percentage of children, and the vast majority of teenagers, if they have Snapchat, they have notifications on, and it is always notifying them.
Right.
Always.
Yeah. Well, there's a cool study where they had a big whiteboard at the front, and they let all the kids leave their phones on for one class period. And every time a notification or ding, they would go up and do a tally mark. It was with every second. The whole class was dinging, from all that they have. So teaching kids to turn off notifications and feel free that they don't have to always be on is important. How many hours a day does the average adult spend behind a screen? And a lot of us work behind a screen if you work in an office, but it's 11 hours, and that's up from 9 hours 4 years ago. TV and the unlimited and Netflix and all of that, we'll go into that, but that's a lot. So who is Netflix's biggest competitor, according to the CEO? Any guesses?
Twitter.
Hulu, good guess.
Twitter.
What is it?
Twitter.
Twitter?
Or Instagram.
The biggest competitor, the CEO was on record saying the biggest competitor is sleep. That's why it goes to the automatic loop. It used to, you have to go and select the next one. The automatic feed, we've all watched a series that and it can't start fast enough, even though it's on the automatic loop. That's what decreases consumption of Netflix. So they are vying for our time and attention, which are two of our most finite resources. And then last, just before we get going, free time. This isn't looking at the past 2007, 2015, and 2017. Your sleep has been about the same, and now I think it's actually going down. Your work and your commute, your survival, that's bathing, eating, that. But the white space is humanity. Those are the things that you enjoy and you love, like riding a bike or visiting with a friend or going to a park. And the red is showing the increased time on screens. So at the end of your life, it's that white space that you remember, that vacation or the different things that you do that bring you joy in the day. But we're really decreasing that amount of time and spending a lot more time on screens. So before we go into that Lacey, everything's bad about technology. That is not the truth. Technology has some amazing, amazing things. I'll go through these all, the safety, efficiency, work from home, research, medical innovation. It's done some great, great things. Let's think about the big storm in Houston a few years ago, Hurricane Harvey. Twitter saved a lot of lives. 911 couldn't handle it. So there's a lot of positives to it. So I don't want you to walk away thinking there's not. But not all screen time is equal. There's consumptive versus creative. Consumptive is watching YouTube for 5 hours. And just watching, little kids today like to watch other kids play with Legos, which is so fascinating. They'll watch them build the whole Lego set, and then if you give them the same Lego set, they can't transfer that knowledge. The fine motor skills and the gross motor skills are not transferring. Or watching a Netflix. Creative is learning to cook and actually cooking at the same time. How are you using your time? There's great things for communication, music, but not all screen time is equal. And this is a screenshot. You can go on your phone and look at your battery and see what your last 7 and your last 24 hours, what you were doing. This was a student that came to me and said, I don't have time for homework. It's so overwhelming, I can't do it. Well, he had 3 hours on Snapchat in the last 24, 2 hours on Flappy Golf. So he had time. for homework, correct? But they don't have the stopping power. There's no stopping cue. There's not natural breaks. The good thing is that Apple and Google, they're all looking at this now because they're hearing it too. So now a lot of phones say your screen time has decreased. Good job. You get a weekly report, or you can look at it. But it's not all screen time is equal. Watching Netflix all day Saturday, it is very different than learning or creating and things like that. So where do we start? And this is where I really drill this with kids, because kids don't want to hear, oh, it's all bad. You know, especially when I teach young kids, understanding the why, but technology is not the problem. It's the extreme overuse. You know, how much time is taking. So a lot of people can manage technology and it doesn't really affect them. But a lot really can't. So we're going to talk about that. So here's just some interesting tech trends. Kids spend an average of 9 hours a day looking at screens. Especially if at a school, they're on screens a lot. The average parent spends 12 minutes a day talking to their kid. And that was really alarming. I thought, that's not true. But when you think about it through your day, and I have 3 kids, actually having a good conversation, you know, not get your lunch, get in the car, we're running late, come on, get out of the car, you know, we're running here, but a conversation. But conversations where a relationship start. And where you really get to know someone. So as a mentor, that conversation is really important because they may not be getting that at home. That's the national average. But we're on the brink of a mental health crisis. There's a lot of research on this, but depression is up. Kids that play video games that are violent, increased violent tendency. ADHD is up 41%. And I was at a Christmas party, a first grade Christmas party, at this little school, and there was a kid with his head on the desk. And they had cookies and gingerbread houses, and it just looked so fun, right? From a first grade 7-year-old angle. There was a kid with his head on the desk, and I said, are you okay? And he said, I just want this to be over because I get my device all 2 weeks of Christmas once school's out. So I just want this party's over. He wasn't enticed by making cookies. He just wanted to get home to game. So it's powerful what it's doing at a very, very young age. And how it's affecting them. And this is recent. This article came out this week, so I added it. But some statistics from 2019. Kids are receiving their first phone at the same time they enter the human development phase. So a lot of kids are getting phones in 4th, 5th grade, very early. A lot of them have tablets or a Kindle or something much, much younger. It's become a safe babysitter in a lot of homes. Sometimes it's safer to be behind a screen watching something than acting up and getting in trouble and interfering with the parents. 1 in 3 children has been cyberbullied. Only half the parents, kids aged 5 to 15, have parental controls. So raise your hand in here if you have Netflix. Anyone have Netflix? We like Netflix or Hulu. Or Amazon. You can put controls at nothing above PG shows on that device. If not, they're going to be opening up Orange is the New Black, or whatever it may be. One of the top Netflix shows in the last couple of years was all about suicide, and it showed it. One was sex education, which has some good points in it, but it's very graphic and showing things. So if kids don't have filters on what they're seeing, it can be really damaging. And 50% of people ages 14 to 24 have experienced technological abusive behavior, which is scary. And 8% of Instagram accounts are fake or post threats. So there's a lot of people on the internet that are not pro our kids. So let's look at the technology industry. Who are these people that are creating this? So this, if you can see the potty up there, I like to show that to kids because I ask them, how many of you are potty trained? And they all giggle and they think it's so funny. We were all potty trained without the iPod. But now, at Bed Bath & Beyond, you can buy a device where you just feed your kid water or popsicles, put them in front of an iPad, and that's how they figure out to go potty. You know. So there is a device, when I bring that up, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's designed to capture our finite resources, our time and attention. The media messages have changed. When I was growing up, this kind of dates myself, but Little House on the Prairie was really a big show. Anyone remember that show? And you didn't want to be like Nellie, who was the rich, owned the store. You wanted to be like Laura, who was meek, but had character and kindness and respect to her parents. Now fast forward to the media messages today, it's fame, shock value, sneaking out, Real Housewives, all of the different messages that kids are watching are not necessarily teaching character. And it's normalized a very hypersexual culture, which she'll go in more, but kids are seeing in the provocative nature of what even some of the Disney stuff is showing to these kids is normalizing behaviors that were not in the past. And then the one other thing about media is it's unlimited. We used to have to wait for the show to come on and go till the next Thursday when it would come on, and it was a family event. If Facts of Life was coming out, the next or Friends or whatever it was we loved, we waited for it. Now you can watch it unlimited, and there's no stopping cues. It doesn't say, you've been watching for 5 hours, maybe you should get outside, go walk around. And that's really powerful. So what we need to know is digital literacy. And we need to teach kids, how does technology affect their thoughts, their behavior, and their actions. And we need to teach adults too. I have many teenagers that say, I can't wake up without my iPhone because it's my alarm clock. And I tell them, well, how in the world did people wake up before 2007? That's when the iPhone came out. How did we get to work? How did we get to school? And they look at me baffled, like they don't know. I tell them, well, you can get an alarm clock at Walmart for like about $5 or $2 probably today. And we all got to work for many, many years without having that. Screens in the bedroom are really, really dangerous. Kids are curious, they're going to look up all kinds of things, but also sleep patterns, and that's all. But we have to think about, how is technology affecting us? How does it affect marriages? Do we wake up and look at our phone first, or wake up and talk to our spouse? It is very, very powerful. So digital literacy is a term that kids and adults need to know. So this is a good thought of, what are your media values? A lot of people have family values, what they stand for, but we need to have media values. We need to think about what role media is going to play in lives. And we need to ask the kids too, what role? A lot of young kids think they're going to be a YouTube star. They really think they are. And I tell them, you're as likely to be a YouTube star as to play in the NFL. It's very hard. Very hard. A lot try. But we need to look at, how long are we on devices? How do we interact it? Do we have stopping cues? And what I like to tell parents is, I say, everybody, pretend like you're holding a baby. It's so cute. You love this baby. It's so great. And then you stand on a cliff and throw it in the ocean. And everyone's like, oh, I would never do that. Giving a kid a device without filters, without talking to them, without teaching them and mentoring and knowing the apps is like doing that to a baby. They don't know the difference between a shark and a dolphin, and how to get to the shore, and a jellyfish versus an octopus. They don't know. Giving a device without some sort of filter, it is so easy to do, to talk to them and put filters where they can't download apps without approval. That if you get a phone today or a device, it's automatically set to explicit. So explicit music, movies, you can change that setting. It's free to change the setting. So we need to educate on that. Because what's at stake, and this is really, before we turn it over, a big part of it, their lives. Self-control, brain formation, and executive function. I have a whole nother talk that I do about brain formation, but the right side of the brain that develops empathy, kindness, creativity, is developed through boredom and not doing things. A lot of kids don't experience that boredom or that creative play. And last night with my kids, we watched the new Lion King. It just came out to be able to rent. Why do we have a new Lion King? It is really cute, but we have so many reruns in movies today. We're not developing all these creative brains anymore to create new things. So the brain formation and how it's affecting the brain and the neural pathways is really alarming, and I encourage you to look it up. Relationships, reputation. There's people that you see on Instagram or whatever social media you're on that you used to think were really great, and then once you watch their social media, you see them in HEB, you kind of want to jump the other aisle, you think, oh. People are creating a brand, a reputation for themselves, how they interact online, and then time management. And oftentimes, kids feel if they make a digital mistake, the world's over. And that's where we have to realize and teach them, you're all going to make digital mistakes. Adults are making digital mistakes, right? People are losing jobs for digital mistakes of what they're putting out there. But to a kid, it feels like trying to put toothpaste back in a tube, which is very hard. So we've got to mentor them through that, give them grace, educate them, help them understand how we can. But once you put it out there, it's permanent. It can take a life of its own, even when you thought you were just sending it to your best friend. So it's here to stay. But what I encourage, we teach to kids and to adults is you have a choice to actively think, what role is media going to play in your life? What influence is it going to have on your self-worth? You know, what are you looking at? Because that will really affect you as well. So now we'll go into the area of risk. Like I said, there's lots of positive, but there's a lot of risk. And we're going to present this together, but I'm going to go through some top-line area of risk. And my eyes aren't that good, so I have to really walk close. But brain formation, social skills, time management, empathy skills. I think the world needs a lot more empathy. You know, and how it's affecting the brain on that. Supervised appropriately at home, at sleepovers, at play dates, babysitters, at their grandparents' house. You know, are there rules? Are there not? I recently went to school and someone said, "Oh, we loved your kids on Snapchat." And they're in 6th grade, they don't have Snapchat. So, what? They're not on Snapchat. Well, the babysitter had Snapchat and made all these funny ones with the dog. None of it was bad. But I hadn't told them, don't use your phone. Don't Snapchat my kids. Like, kids today don't understand it, like that. Some of that's private. So you have to coach them what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Peer drama. When we were all in 8th grade, everybody go back to 8th grade in your mind, right? We were all 8th graders at one point. Peer drama was around. It's been around for years. But what's the difference is, it used to be happening at school, and then we went home, and it kind of ended. Now that's where it all starts, because they're all texting, group texting, Snapchatting, and it can increase it to that level. Viewing of inappropriate content and pornography is huge. People don't want to talk about it. She's going to talk about it in great detail, but even the average kid is seeing it at a very, very young age, and we need to talk about it and have the long-term effects it's having. Screen addiction, there's rehab centers opening all over the country for screen addiction. Gaming, the #1 reason kids are failing out of Baylor University today, boys, I sat through a conference with Jim Roberts, who's at Baylor, is gaming. It's not drugs, it's not alcohol. They can't get to class, they game all night. If you work that hard to get into college and you can't get there because of gaming, it has extreme power. And a lot of kids think they're going to be professional gamers, as they believe that's a job. Sleep deprivation of blue lights, relationships, the increased suicide rates, which is a whole nother talk of what that's really increased. Privacy. Kids don't view privacy like we view privacy. They don't. And understanding and asking them, how do you view it? Have a good conversation. These are all conversation points to have with them. Depression, anxiety, the selfie and the like drama. You know, a lot of the apps that are created are the need to belong. That's what likes are, or affirmation. Fame and shock value. I mean, look at the world today. A lot of the shootings and things of that nature are streamed live. People are driven for this fame and shock value. FOMO, that's the term, fear of missing out. That controls a lot of people looking at their phone all the time. They're afraid they're going to miss something. Or they're fearful that their kids, that their friends are all going to be on something they're not going to know and not be included. I spoke to a group of seniors recently, and one of the boys came to the end and said, "Miss Rossiter, you don't understand FOMO. It's so much bigger than you even know. It affects my daily, you know, that's why I can't, you know, put my phone away." So it's very powerful. Violent video games, fake accounts, and then patience and perseverance. We all want something right now. You know, Google has made information so easy. It's great. If we want to look at South America, we can look at a picture right now. But patience and perseverance is really being lost in that and working hard for something. And a lot of that's where you grow, is in patience and perseverance. So I'm going to turn it over to Sue now, who's going to talk more about good apps and bad apps, and we'll take questions at the end.
So, let me give a little comment first. You'll see my phone is on the table. We actually are putting a timer so that we don't run out of time. So it's not because I'm checking my messages or anything like that. Okay, so good apps versus bad apps. First of all, there's probably thousands of apps, and the ones that are popular change. A lot of the little ones that are social media type apps change, but by far, Snapchat is the biggest one with teenagers. And also, of all ages, is Instagram. So, raise your hand if you have Instagram. Okay, raise your hand if you have Facebook. Okay, raise your hand if you have Snapchat. So, nobody in this room has Snapchat out there. Oh, one. Yes. So, guess which one is the favorite of teenagers? Snapchat, because we aren't on it. That's why they love it. And because of other features which we're going to discuss. So, there's some great, addictive apps. All of those social media apps, but particularly Snapchat, are addictive. And we're going to talk about what features of Snapchat make it addictive for children. And how does it affect time management? Chelsea has covered that in great detail. YouTube, if you have younger children that y'all mentor, they are on YouTube a lot. So I have a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old. My 12-year-old daughter, so girls in particular, will be looking at innocent things on YouTube, like how to make slime was a big thing a couple of years ago. And then things about fashion or makeup as the girls get older, middle school age, and things like that. So you think YouTube just has a lot of educational content, creative content, things like that. But even young age geared towards videos on YouTube will have embedded in them inappropriate content that bad people out there have done specifically to target young children. So they'll look up Paw Patrol because that's what they love, and people have created sexual content and inserted it into Paw Patrol videos on YouTube. And that happens a lot. So even if you have filters, a lot of those inappropriate content videos are still getting in and seen through YouTube and other means on the internet to young children and children of all ages. Smart Social is a great resource online. So if y'all have questions about apps and safety and social media, Smart Social is great. His name's Josh Oaks, O-C-H-S, yeah. And he has a lot of great videos on, so you have to get on the internet and look at it. So he has a lot of great videos on Snapchat and all their features and what you need to look out for. So this visual has been out there, but it became, I think, more readily available recently because there was a story in the news in Florida recently about a predator who was in his early 20s who met a 10-year-old on Snapchat, met her, picked her up, met her, and sexually assaulted her. And so the sheriff's office there put this little visual up about 15 apps that you need to be aware of. So I can tell you, in the job that I have at the Advocacy Center, we treat victims of crime, children, victims of crime of all ages, but I specifically do child victims of sexual abuse or assault. And when we do cases with law enforcement every week, we have an MDT meeting, multidisciplinary team meeting, with medical advisor, all of our caseworkers at the Advocacy Center, all law enforcement in 6 counties that have a case from that week, CPS workers, and the DA's office. We talk about all the cases that have come in that week. And I will tell you, the vast majority of them have some sort of social media app that is involved in how the victim was contacted. A large portion, I would say almost all of them. There's some sort of app involved or pornography involved. So we're going to go over the most common ones that we are seeing in our line of work when we're talking about child sexual abuse and predators. Let's see. TikTok is so fun. I mean, I see my children's friends who have TikTok, and what the younger kids and teenagers are doing, it's like a music video type of app. So they have music playing, and you learn the dance, and you video yourselves dancing, and then they share it because it's fun, they're being funny and silly, and they're dancing. But just like all these other apps, there's also inappropriate content that's not filtered that's being shared by people that are older or younger and doing inappropriate things. Snapchat, we're going to go into great detail because that's very important in our young people's world right now. Let's see, Whisper. A lot of these are dating apps But what children and teenagers in particular are doing is they are creating a fake profile on dating apps and pretending like they're older so they can meet older people. And then you can see how that's a problem because there are people that are older acting like they're younger. And so you have a 16-year-old pretending like they're 20, and you have a 50-year-old pretending like they're 19. And they hook up, and then they actually meet not in real life because the teenagers think that's awesome that a 19-year-old or 20-year-old wants to meet them, and they're actually much, much older. So a lot of these are dating apps.
Can I?
Yes, yeah.
And a lot of these allow you to be anonymous. There's a lot of, ask us them and whisper, hey, I'm interested in this. And then they end up going somewhere else. So you feel safe when you're anonymous, right? It makes you bold. And some of these allow that.
And a lot of them have location
Right.
services, so that's very risky. So you may not think that your child is going to meet up with them, and they may not decide to, but they have location services turned on, and so people can just see where they are anyway.
Yeah, and that calculator one is interesting.
Yes.
You can cover any app. So I had a mom say, oh, my kid loves math. They have 5 calculators on their phone. No, they don't. It's like a sticker. You can cover Porn 101 with a calculator. And your mom thinks, oh, they have another new calculator app. They love calculators. No,
I mean, it's so
you can
tricky.
cover any app with a calculator or whatever it is. That's why you need to have filters, where you can't download apps without a parent or a authorities' approval, because they're going to be curious. We would have been curious things too. But you can cover any app. So if you think your kid has 15 calculators on your phone, they don't.
So I will tell you, parents will oftentimes, after I do Camp Careful with young kids who are starting to ask for these apps, like Instagram is one pretty much at a young age, that's the one they want first. Because it's mostly pictures, right? You're just posting pictures of what you're doing. Well, again, they turn on location services, or they tag where they're at, mostly on Instagram. They'll post where they're at what time, and what school they are at, and what events they're at, and what sports teams they play for. And so you get all this information with kids because they're posting so much personal stuff. And then they are accepting friends because it's all about how many followers do you have. So then they're accepting followers who they don't really know, but they see that 23 of their friends are friends with them too. And so they're like, well, I must know them because 23 of my friends know them. And it's this constant need for more. More followers, more posts, more likes, more comments, and then they'll put a thing on the story. So they've posted it, and then they say, see my post and comment, because it's about how many comments are there. So it's a constant need for more. So people ask me, what filters do you use? And Chelsea's talked about, use filters on your phone. I'll be honest, I don't have any child filters. I will tell parents all the time, especially young parents, the best phone filter is you. As an adult, as a parent, as a mentor. I have my daughter's Instagram and my son's Instagram logged in on my Instagram on my phone to the point where, and they know it, and you have to have their passwords. So they are logged in on my phone, and when they have Instagram DMs, and especially when they were first getting it, because I wanted them to be very clear about how much I was on top of them, if they got DMs that popped up with a little badge number, I would open it first. I'd be like, oh, you got a message. So that they knew I was watching. So you are the most important and the best filter. Here's how I have the best filter for Snapchat for my 16-year-old. He doesn't have it. So you are the best person to help your child stay safe on the internet and social media. And my son asked for it maybe a few times when he was in middle school, and I was like, you don't need it. Trust me. You don't need it. It's useless information, and it's a giant waste of time. So he asked maybe 3 times, and then when he saw how his friends were addicted to it and losing connections with him on a personal level when they were doing stuff, he's like, yeah, Mom, I don't really need it. And he doesn't care anymore. Because he now knows, at first he had FOMO, fear of missing out. Like, what are they doing on there? Like, what parties are they going to? But they knew quickly, well, Sam doesn't have Snapchat, so let's just group. He always is on the group texts on his phone, which I read. So he quickly realized, I'm not missing out, because all they're doing is sending stupid pictures of themselves and typing like, yo. I mean, what? We'll talk about that. Okay, so social media and relationships. So, like I said, in my job, we came to quickly realize how relationships form that are unsafe, and it's usually through social media. A lot of times at school, also in person, but a lot of the unsafe sexual relationships are formed through social media, Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook. So some teenagers are still on Facebook, but most of them are leaving Facebook because all of us are on it, and it's boring content to them, and they're going towards Instagram and Snapchat. But those three are the biggest places where teenagers and young children are meeting people with bad intentions. So Instagram, younger audience, let's see, 72% of teens go on Instagram every day. I would say vast majority, like I would say 99% of them go on it every day during school. Like they're on it at school. YouTube videos are huge, and 60% of American Snapchat users, under 25, I bet that's actually higher now. Okay. So, let's talk about friends on social media. So, often not the actual age, and often not the actual gender. So, cases that I've seen, at least on a monthly basis, if not weekly, is where they are friending, accepting friends and followers on Snapchat and Instagram because they see that they're friends with their own friends. And then they cultivate a relationship, and by that I mean a digital relationship with someone. So we have, let's say, a 14-year-old girl in high school. She's on Snapchat or Instagram. Someone asks to follow her. She looks at their profile and sees that they have 58 of the same friends that's following that person, this stranger. She's like, okay, so that's clearly somebody that I know that probably met once, or it's, another school across town. They accept it. Then she posts something cute. That person says, and it's a guy. She looks at it, says he's, they write some school like MHS class of 22, right? So like, oh, okay, well, they're my age. They comment on their posts, so she's like, oh, this person's awesome. He's always saying how much they like my posts, and then start messaging her. What are you doing? Oh my gosh, you did great on your tennis tournament. Oh, congratulations. They start forming a relationship. She's getting attention. She's getting things that she needs. And then they say, hey, I'm going to the HOT fair, rodeo. Do you want to meet up? Sure. Where do we want to meet? Let's meet at 7 o'clock at whatever ride. She shows up, she's looking around, oh, that's time. How could that be time already? And then turns out that they look like they're 16 or 17, but they actually are 27. And they've already formed a relationship. So she thinks he's cool, she thinks he's nice. They go ahead and have a fun time at the fair, and then they start cultivating a real relationship and meeting up, and then bad things happen. Another one that I had recently, a 15-year-old boy, 16-year-old boy, we have this pretty frequently. A boy cultivates a relationship on Snapchat with a girl. They start a relationship. They actually say that they're dating, and this is how relationships happen with teenagers. They form a relationship on social media, and then all of a sudden they're boyfriend and girlfriend without having met yet. No lie. And so then, because they're saying things like, oh, showing pictures and stuff, then they start sending each other selfie pictures of themselves naked. Then they meet up. They say, let's meet up. That 15-year-old boy goes and meets that person in the mall, and it's a 40-something-year-old man. They had you can get naked pictures of teenage girls online. They had pretended to be a teenage girl. It was a 40-something-year-old man. And now he's got naked pictures of that 15-year-old boy, and he extorts him, sextortion. If you don't come with me, if you don't come back to my apartment, whatever, I'm going to show all those pictures of you. That kind of stuff is happening. You'd be shocked. You're like, there's no way that kind of stuff is happening. It's happening all the time. So we have to be very careful. So grooming is just the way that predators, people who are going to sexually abuse someone, are forming as a process where they're figuring out who is my victim going to be. They're looking for certain things, children who are at risk, people who are at risk, people who aren't getting paid attention to, people who need things, and then they're filling that need first. I'm giving you all this attention. I love you. I don't, your parents are mean. They don't understand you. I understand you. I get you. Your friends are mean. You don't need friends. All you have, you've got me. I'll take care of you. I'm your best friend. I give you, nobody else understands you. They fill that need, make that child or person feel loved. They give them money. They give them whatever they want. And then they start introducing things that are inappropriate. Pornography. They start desensitizing them, like, maybe body touches that are not sexual touches, but getting touchy-feely with them so that they're getting used to that. Showing them pornography, giving them drugs, giving them alcohol. And then once they form that bond, then they start doing sexually inappropriate things to them. And by that time, the child, whether that's a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 16-year-old, feels like they were part of it. And they feel blame, shame, embarrassment, and they feel like, what have I done? Or they were threatened, and then they're caught in a cycle where they're being abused and they can't get out. Okay. So, when I talk to children and parents, I say make sure that they have private accounts only. Most teenagers, a lot of teenagers are not having private accounts because they just want a bunch of followers on Instagram, particularly. I tell kids, don't accept all friend requests, don't post personal information, think before you post, and don't ever meet new online friends in person. We've already touched on this. Digital media is forever, even if, in theory, it disappears. Instagram DMs disappear. If you have those pictures where you snap a picture and they open it, then it can't be opened again, or maybe one time. Snapchat, those snaps only last up to 10 seconds, and then those chats disappear. Stories on Snapchat last 24 hours, and then they disappear. But, as you all know, people screenshot everything. So, it doesn't really disappear. And law enforcement has access to all of those things. Facebook has a great relationship with law enforcement. They are very good about getting information off their server. So let's talk about pornography, because it is a huge problem. 82% of kids are exposed to inappropriate material online before age 11. So their first age of exposure to pornography is 11. That's the average age. And that might be accidental, because if they are on the internet looking at YouTube, it might be misdirected links. Like they type in something and then these porn sites will deliberately put something similar, or they'll accidentally type something and something comes up, or it's inserted into YouTube things, stuff like that. So sometimes it's unintentional, but once they see it, they're curious. And then as they're older, they're searching for it. So 90% of children aged 8 to 16 have viewed porn. The largest consumers are 12 to 17-year-old boys. Wow. Porn sites comprise 12% of the internet. 70% of men ages 18 to 34 visit a porn site in a typical month. So this big stat here was shocking to me. So porn websites attract more visitors each month than Amazon, Netflix, and Twitter combined. Wow. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm on Amazon all the time. So you think about those three huge internet beings and how much traffic they get. Pornography is bigger than all three of them combined. That was shocking to me. So porn has a lot of consequences when we have porn addiction or even regular use of porn. Leading cause of divorce. There's sexual intimacy issues that can happen because it normalizes different types of sexual behavior. They normalize that, and then people are having problems having normal sexual relationships with their partners. It's addictive. There's 68 million daily porn internet searches. I think I saw 25% of internet searches are for pornography. 25% of internet searches are for pornography. 35% of internet downloads are pornography. So it's huge. And every second, 30,000 people view porn, and every 30 minutes a porn film is made in the United States. So, lots of different facts. If y'all want to just like screenshot this. The big one let's touch on because y'all are mentors of children. 64% of 13 to 24-year-olds are actively seeking out pornography weekly. A 14 to 19-year-old female who consumes pornographic videos are a significantly greater likelihood of being victims of sexual harassment or sexual assault. And then child porn is one of the fastest growing online businesses. So I have had to testify in cases in McLennan County, down in Williamson County, where there's hundreds, and there was one case where there was over 10,000 downloads on a person's, of child pornography on a person's computer. And I was having to go through and age those children in the videos and pictures, which was horrifying to me, even in the job that I do. It is unbelievable the amount of child pornography that is out there and how young it goes. Teen porn category has topped porn site searches for the last 6 years. Okay, so the themes that we see, the hypersexualization and pornography in the media, the themes that we'll see is like incest, abusive behavior. So when I see children who have made an outcry of alleged sexual abuse, a large portion of those children, because I do ask, have you ever been taken, has a picture ever been taken of you or a video ever been taken when these things were happening? Some will say yes. And then I also ask, have you seen inappropriate or naked pictures or videos? And a large portion of those kids who have been sexually abused say yes, because it's part of the grooming process like I talked about, where they're going to desensitize them to sexual things first, and then they'll move on to the child. So a lot of pornography is used or being created when children are being sexually abused. And then of course you can see how that would make a child think that that's normal behavior. Hair pulling, choking, double penetration, addiction, sexism. So there's a lot of aggression seen obviously in these pornographic videos and images. And that then, I think I talk about it, so that then normalizes that kind of sexual behavior. So when you see teenagers or young children starting to watch pornography and being addicted to that kind of sexual behavior, they think that's normal, and then they then do that or expect that of their partner. Or not even a partner. They think that's normal, that I can do whatever I want. That person didn't know them and they had sex with them in this way, so I can do that to somebody else. So you can see how that's a huge problem. So we need to change, well, we need to get rid of and minimize viewing of pornography. But even when we're talking about the culture of relationships, whether that's male to male, female to female, whatever it is, we have to re-teach in culture what a safe relationship is, and the concept of consent, so that young people especially, can understand as they're getting into relationships, what does it mean to be safe? What does it mean to be equal partners in a relationship?
Can I add one thing? I was in this talk recently and someone shared this, that the biggest growth market for Viagra or ED medicine is 25 to 34, which that was invented long ago for much older gentlemen, but a lot of young boys have watched so much pornography in their bedroom, they have rewired their brain and how they see intimacy, and they have a hard time being physically intimate with someone else. So it's fascinating that this porn addiction, even if they're not in a violent or a sexual abuse type setting, just a kid being addicted to porn, it has long-term effects on their body because it rewires their brain. So I think it's important too.
So let's get through, okay. So teen sexting laws. If y'all can just take a picture of this, because we're running out of time, we really want to get to Snapchat stuff. So teen sexting means the sending of or the viewing digitally of inappropriate content, naked pictures or sexual conduct, which can even mean just exposure of genitals to sexual activity. So kids are doing this all the time. They're taking naked selfies and they're sending it to their boyfriend or girlfriend. And I don't know why you would do that. You know, I kind of liken it to, back in our day, if you did that, you took a picture, first of all, you couldn't take a selfie with a camera. You'd have to put it on a tripod, take a picture, send it to Walgreens to get it printed out. A man would have to sit there and print it out and look at your naked picture while they're developing it and then give it back to you. We would never have done that. We didn't do that. But it's so easy with the phone. You get these little pop sockets. They can hold it like this. They take a picture of themselves naked and they zip it over to their boyfriend. And then guess what the boyfriend does after they break up? They send it on to their friends. Because all of a sudden she's somebody I don't like and she made me mad. And I'm going to send it to my friends because that's awesome. That's hilarious. So kids or teenagers are doing this all the time. And because Snapchat disappears, they're doing it on Snapchat because it's easy to do it when they think it disappears. But of course, people are taking screenshots. Okay, so there's lots of different laws that apply to having naked pictures of somebody that's a minor. That's possession of child pornography. But if you're a minor in possession of a picture of a minor, like if your girlfriend sends you a picture and then you send it on, then you're electronically transmitting or it's unlawful disclosure. A lot of these overlap. But there's some stipulations, like on the third one, if you're dating the person and you're the only ones involved, then you won't get in trouble for it. But if you sent it on to somebody else, then you will. I always tell children, if you receive something unwanted, you need to tell your parents. And the parents need to report it. Because there's probably eventually going to be a parent that finds out and is very upset that their daughter or son's genitals are floating around in the digital world. So you need to tell your parents and you need to report it. Oh wait, no, just go back. Okay, so we'll skip through. Those are all different specific, but they all kind of overlap. They shouldn't have naked pictures. They shouldn't send naked pictures. And teenagers are threatening each other with that as well. I mean, there was a case locally a year or so ago about a couple that broke up. They had naked pictures or videos of each other. She broke up with him. He got mad and he said, if you don't get back together with me, I'm going to send your naked pictures and post it on Snapchat. And he got arrested. So what used to be on print is now on digital media and it's traceable and it's easy to pass on. Okay, so disappearing stories, Facebook and Snaps. Okay, so Snapchat was originally, again, they say they created it so that you could share pictures and interact with people, and it's a great way to keep relationships. Well, you can send short videos, you can live video chat, you can message, you can send pictures to each other, but what kids, because it disappears like we talked about, the snap only lasts up to 10 seconds. You can decide how long, but it's up to 10 seconds. And once it's viewed, you can view it one more time, and then it disappears. And then if you post it on your story, it can keep putting all these snaps on your story, and then that goes away after 24 hours. So people, teenagers, are very likely to post things that they normally wouldn't post that might stay there a little bit longer, because it's only going to last 3 seconds, and that's fine. So they'll send and post and snap riskier content. It encourages bad behavior, proven addictive. And then they have streaks. So we talked about the first home screen basically is the camera. So that's how you create a snap. It could be a picture or a video. And then you can type on it, put little cool filters on it and all that stuff, and then they'll send it on. And then what they're doing with their friends is you can send it, post it to your story, or you can send it to an individual person, or you can send it to a group or whatever. However many people you want to show it to. As they create and send a snap to somebody, that starts a streak if it's been 2 days or more. And so the teenagers are getting addicted to it, and it's like a gaming feature that they want to see how many streaks they can get going and how long those streaks last, and then they get points on their profile for how many times they're posting, snapping and things like that. So they'll have, like mine, because I'm never on Snapchat, but I had it to know how to figure out what Snapchat was. But my points, I think it's like 193. But these teenagers have like hundreds of thousands of points because they're on it constantly. And they're having these streaks that are lasting years.
And if they lose their phone or their parents take it away, they'll have a friend log in and keep snapping for it.
That's how addictive it is. And then the big thing that came out in 2017 was Snap Map. So that is, again, where they turn it on. I think it's already automatically on, where you are showing your location. So you swipe down on Snapchat and a map shows up, just like our Google Maps. And it puts your little person, like a little fun Bitmoji of you, and where you are, like to the house. It is very precise, like Google Maps. and you can zoom in to where your child is. And then it shows hot spots, like if there's a concert going on, all these little Bitmojis and people are sitting right there and it's red. You know, like a little infrared thing, like this is where all the activity is happening. So you can turn it on ghost mode where your own person is not showing up on a map, but a lot of teenagers aren't doing that. They want to be out there. They want people to know what they're doing. So Snap Map is where a lot of predators are connecting with children, is because they're friending them and starting a relationship, and then they'll find them and say, hey, I see you're at this, so am I. And then they'll go get them. So we need to make sure that your child has the ghost feature on so that they're not being followed. Streaks we talked about, and of course there's screenshots. We talked about sexting. So think before you snap. We need to talk about the risks of sexting, restricting who can view. I can't tell the kids enough to stop accepting all those followers, but they just keep doing it. So as parents, like on Instagram, it's really easy to get on your child's Instagram followers list and just start deleting the ones that you don't know, and the ones with weird names, or the ones that don't have pictures. Just have them blocked. I mean, I did that, and I still do that, because my daughter is newer on Instagram. My son just watches sports videos on Instagram. It's really what he's doing. But my daughter was new, and she has learned now that I'm watching, and I will get on. Like, again, I'm usually pre-looking at her Instagram friend follower request. And so when I see that it's something weird, and it might be somebody at a school across town, I still just delete it. I mean, she doesn't need them. So you need to be watching and being careful. Ghost mode, disappearing illegal content. Yeah. Okay. Role models.
All right, so this is where you're going to end here, but this is what we need. We need role models. We need people that care about digital media values, that realize that in it, as much as you know about it, it's changing so fast. That's like I said, I read articles. But we need role models. We need people to realize that work-home life is blurred now. You used to leave work, go home, and then it was done, right? You were a family. Now, you can be sitting with your family and you get an email from your boss that's angry, and all of a sudden you're in a bad mood, but the people right there with you, they didn't do anything. They're not even a part of this world that just came in. So understanding the work life and the trickle-down effect, how it affects our young people, you know, what's going on even in our life. Alone together, I encourage kids and adults, go to a restaurant and look for a family that's alone together. What that means is they all went out to dinner together, but they're all looking at a device. You know, you should, if you're going to go eat with someone, be with someone. I was recently at a pizza place. There was a bachelorette party. They had the crown, they had the sash, they all were dressed up. This was their big night. They never looked up from their phones. So why get the sash and the crown? You know, but they were taking pictures and posing. It looked like a great time, but they were not. So let's not be alone together. Power of permission with pictures. If we teach kids, you don't put a picture out there of someone that if you haven't asked them. And adults shouldn't be taking pictures of kids without asking them, even if it's your own. You've got to teach that of what we're putting out there. I'd like to teach kids, put your grandmother on one shoulder and your principal on the other. And if they don't both say, heck yeah, send it, don't send it, right? Can I put both? Because you might have a wild grandmother, you know, but the principal's always going to probably be like, no. So, you know, ask yourself, put the phone down. Set an area, you know, ideas of well-being and expectations. Create stopping cues, create limits. Bedrooms, dinner time, places that media is not going to play, that relationships are going to trump over the media. And it's hard to do. Kids say, well, I can't study without my phone. I wish my parents would just take it away. A kid told me that. I go, you're 18. Go put it in the kitchen. I just can't. But create environments that are tech-free in your house for stopping cues. Talk about good and bad images. But if anything, take away the shame and the judgment. And this is an issue that affects all of us. We just all need to be talking about it. You know, and say, how are you dealing with this? And when you're mentoring kids, hey, what kind of media? What are your favorite shows? Why do you like them? If they're playing an app, hey, can I play that app with you? Be curious why they're into that app. See what their life is like within that app, if it's Fortnite or whatever it may be. But their world is there, and we're in their physical world, we got to be in their digital world. Because that has huge, huge impact. And their online character needs to match their offline character. But we have to teach it. And it's only been around since 2007. It's not that long. So there's a lot out there that we need to talk about them. But if anything, have the conversation, make the conversations with the kids, and unplug when you can. And when you're mentoring or with kids, try to put your phone away. Be really, really present with them. So
Yeah, and I would say so as an ending practical point time right now, let's say as mentors and parents and grandparents, what you should be doing to start off with being digitally aware of what your children and mentees are doing is ask them about location services. We need to be turning those off. If you have young children you are mentoring, and if you have a relationship at all with their parents, or if they are looking to you for advice, I would say do not give them Snapchat. It is so dangerous. It's like a drug, it's addictive, and there's so much inappropriate content. We didn't even talk about, so there's the home screen, there's the messaging and chats, there's the stories, and then if you go to this side, it's Discover, which is where all like Cosmopolitan Magazine and CNN, I mean, this is where youth are getting their news, because CNN is on Discover in Snapchat. So there is good stuff on there, but there's also a whole lot of other bad stuff that is not being monitored by any sort of organization. So Cosmopolitan, I mean, you've seen those female articles about sex and things like that. That's on there. Cosmopolitan is posting articles on there about sex. And then there's other, like, not legitimate magazines, but online content that's like how to do something XYZ sexual better. And that's just going to show up on their Discover. That's not filtered in any way. So young children, when they go over to the Discover section of Snapchat, are exposed to a lot of things that you're like, I didn't say that could be on there. Well, if you give them Snapchat, you did say that could be on there. So location services need to be turned off. Don't give them Snapchat. Just don't. If you have other social media, YouTube, Instagram, you need to be logged in, always. And you need to be watching what they're looking at. Don't let them take, if you're a parent or grandparent, don't let them have their phones in their bedrooms. My kids, they plug it in the study. And they never have it in the bedroom. And you as mentors need to be asking them, show me what you're doing, like Chelsea said. Be very interactive, be curious, see what they find fascinating and see what they're constantly looking at, and I bet you it's Snapchat and Instagram. So.
And you can say that the word phubbing, do y'all know the word phubbing? So that's when you're with somebody and then all of a sudden they look at your phone. It's like they're snubbing you, but they're phubbing you with their phone. Teach them that. Like, hey, when we're together, don't put your phone out right in front of me. There's respect and manners and manners around it. Because it's made to be addictive. We're addicted. I struggle with it as much as kids, So we have to be open with them. And, hey, I struggle with this. What do you struggle with it? What does it make you feel? And oftentimes young girls are comparing a quick snap or a quick Instagram, their insides and their inner feelings to 1 second of a picture. And talking about how we can't do that for the mental health. We could go on and on and on. But mental health is huge with it.
If you are a parent or grandparent and you're talking about introducing a phone or social media to your child or mentee, I recommend doing a contract with that child about what the rules are. Like even etiquette things, like if you are in a conversation, that phone should be in your pocket or in your purse, not in your hand. No, you have to silence it at school, church, it needs to be off.
There's great ones online.
Yeah, if you look up phone contracts,
Yeah, Common Sense Media has a great one.
So that's real important, and then kind of revisit that every once in a while. And then no pictures of other children without their permission. And if that person's not on Instagram, you need to get permission from their parent. That's some of the rules that I have for my children when they started getting Instagram. So just look up things and just reminding them to be safe.
But just be engaged. Think about it. There's lots of good information. So any questions? I know we went a little bit long.
Over.
Any questions? Yeah.
So recently there was there's a popular moms group, like local moms or moms of Waco or something. They recently had a mom's night out event at a gallery space that's fairly large, and there was a massive attendance. Like there were so many moms out there, And I just can't stop thinking about how beneficial this discussion would have been for that event, for all of them, because, you know, I feel like that this is very important information. And rather than the moms complaining to their friends about this particular issue, it should be more of a productive conversation about how to proactively resolve the situation with the children.
Yeah, I can tell you, Chelsea and I are constantly getting asked to do these types of talks, but it's really a matter of who hears us and is a part of those other organizations and schools. I mean, we get asked by businesses and schools all the time to come talk.
Right.
So, and I got tagged on, it's Waco Moms in the Know, is probably what it was. And I got tagged in that about someone asking, I'm trying to teach my daughter the names for private parts, but I hate using the word vagina. What do y'all think? And it was like, blew up people's opinions about it. And people kept tagging me on Camp Careful in my personal thing, like, you need to talk about this. So it really just takes somebody hearing it and saying, you know, I'd love for my kid's school to hear about that. I'd love for this mom's group or church group to hear about that. And I mean, I have a Facebook page, Dr. Sue, Camp Careful, Dr. Sue Battle, and I also have campcareful.com, where there's a lot of information, and you can find Chelsea.
Yeah, I just do this because it's my ministry. It's a passion of mine, but I can give you my contact. I talk at the chamber, and I talk at Region 12. I do a lot of the nurses, school nurses trainings, and a lot to kids, because I think we have to have kids wake up to it and understand, and more of a Socratic method, you know, not this is all that, but getting them to understand and care about their brain and their brain development and where that's going, and understanding the addictive nature. So I'm happily, I don't have a Facebook that, I'm on Facebook, Chelsea Ressler, you can find me that way, but I don't do it as a business at this point. I just, because I believe heavily that it's important to talk about and the discussion is needed, and that it's a big topic. It's hard to tackle. So.
I would recommend, if you're a mentor, to get Snapchat on your phone, just so you have it. And you don't need to use it. I hate it. My daughter, when she was little, used to use it just for the cute little picture filters. Yeah. So if you have a mentee, I would suggest just at least putting it on your phone and then adding that mentee. And then you don't need it for anything else. But so you can see the kind of stuff that they're doing.
Right. Be in their digital world. A lot of parents are like, I don't know what they do online.
And you know what? That there's another statistic that showed that when teenagers had a parent following them on Instagram or Snapchat, the amount of risky content decreased. Another thing about Instagram, though, because a lot of us are on Instagram, they have multiple accounts.
There's a lot of fake accounts.
Fake accounts. So when we're talking about fake accounts of people who are predators, the teenagers all have fake accounts too. It's not fake, it's them, but they've changed, they have additional accounts.
And they'll have an account that's open to the public and all their mom's friends, you know, that post the cat or whatever. And then they have their private group, so their best friend group of 7, that they all go all the time, and then their best friend group of 14, because that's different. But think about the dynamics of health when you think, oh, I'm not in that Instagram group, I'm only in this one, and group chats and what it does to I'm a mom of 3 girls, how it affects girls of, you know, and bullying is very subtle in some ways today. Like the group chat will have all said wear purple bows to school, but 14 girls show up in purple bows, but the rest, oh, you're not on our group chat, you're not this, you know. So you've all put yourself back there. It's very subtle how some of it comes down and plays out that sometimes adults don't even see or recognize, and it's so quick too. So.